So let's sink our teeth into Samurai Sword. This piece, when I was in Japan, I already knew was a Japanese exclusive only, never released anywhere else. This is the full-size version, while in the West, we received this tiny little rinky-dink thing. This is the one that's the full-size kids cosplay weapon. Excellent, absolutely gorgeous. I kept it dead stock sealed. It was kind of crazy too, because this was the beginning, in my opinion, where the Japanese were beginning to understand that the markets were changing for Power Rangers. Most of the Power Ranger stuff I was finding at that time was just being blown out. Vintage original stuff from the 80s and 90s really had no value then. I mean, sure, a little bit of value, but nothing crazy like it is today, especially for my Morphin Power Ranger stuff. So I kept this piece dead stock, and I like it, but it's also a blocky design in general. And I'm not excited about blocky transformations. Samurais, for me, is a little bit more past my care ratio for the toy line. So I'm okay with letting this thing go. Well, mainly, too, if it's a little bit expensive. If it's up there in price, I'll let it go. But if it's like $50 to $100, then I'm not going to care. I'm more of a fan of the vehicles and dinosaur Zords than the origami transformation Megazord. It just never got me excited. And the quality of the plastic, it just felt like very low-end, cheap quality. Nothing really spectacular for the design of those Megazords. So I just don't have much heart for this series when it comes to the toy line. So, yeah, wonderful piece. Just happy times of shopping in Japan. I see this piece and it reminds me of hunting in Akihabara. There was a store that was selling discount items that were being blown out of stores. And they would sell like cameras and suitcases, but there'd be toys there too. And I walked by at random one day and they had the Wolf Zord from Mystic Force, which was never issued outside of Japan in the dark black and purple colors. And they were being blown out for $20 each, dead stock sealed. There was just tons and tons. They're just stacked. Boom, 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 boom. Ugh. At least I was smart to buy one for myself. But at that time, I just didn't feel that there would be a market. Take 20 of them, ship them home, and then sit on them, and then wait for that moment they're worth $200 each. So, I'm not regretting, but it was just a moment of looking back of like, damn, how many people are desiring to have that wonderful piece now. You just saw them being almost given out for free. Great Japan trips. We'll talk about those in the future. I took a lot of photos of stores and their stock quietly, but another time. Next up, we have the Classic Edition 4-pack. This was a controversial piece when it came out. Not so much now, but it still brings back those memories of fear. So what this was Kenner sat back and said people love the original Star Wars figures, as well as they have a fair amount of money involved behind them. We'd like to tap into that market and get some of that money for ourselves. So they issued 4 original figures, and they were substantially different than the originals. You can easily tell the weapons were different, the tones of the colors were different, the quality of the plastic. Looking back now, it was not as terrifying because it didn't really affect the vintage market as much as the stuff that Hasbro producing right now of those retro vintage figures that are getting, at first, not that accurate, but as they got later to the figures, especially let's say Yak Face, yeah, that's getting really close to the exact quality of the original figures, and that's going to affect the vintage market. Now, you may not care about the vintage market, but it is a engine that drives collectability. It's a part of it. But once you start taking away that, if things slow down, people look at their collections, how much money they put into these things and how much they love it, and then seeing like a market collapse is a possibility. And this applies to all the other toy lines too. A lot of these companies are just looking into making their money. They don't care anymore about the lines they're producing. All the old guard that worked at Hasbro or Mattel or Playmates, they're gone. That passion for the toys they were working on, the history, doesn't matter anymore. Now it's about the bottom line every quarter's reports and the money that can be made from toys that are worth tons of money from the vintage line that these companies are not making any money off right now. So this then caused some turmoil, but nothing compared to these days. Funny enough, even though this was produced in about 1995, 96, nobody cares. $60, $50, and this is the one we opened when I was younger, and let the thing go, of course, but it's the first time for the 80s and 90s toys to ever be reissued, and the response from the collector group. So it has a bit of a history when it comes to that, and that's why I like it more than the toy itself. But that being said, let it go. It's, again, just historic, we'll put it that way. We now have, we'll go to Star Wars Galoob Action Fleet. So all the various toy companies that picked up the license for Star Wars, it was Galoob as well as Applause. And we've covered Applause before, and Applause just made lots of wonderful knickknacks and little PVC figures and keychains. Galoob made the micro figures, with Micro Machines already being a huge success for Galoob, making them a powerhouse company. They invested quite a lot of money into Star Wars, especially with the Episode 1 coming out. They produce gorgeous toys. The Action Fleet series, the little miniature posable figures, all the vehicles, they just, wow. They're perfect little replicas of the vehicles, and a lot of collectors love these. The market is there. There are definitely some rare ones like the E-Fighter and the TIE Defender, and a little couple uncommon pieces here and there. But most of the market is about, 20, 25, still in the package, because at this point Star Wars was a mixture of kids playing with it in the 90s as well as collectors purchasing it. There wasn't that many collectors buying the original vintage stuff. Most was thrown in the garbage. Majority of it was opened up and played with. But the 90s toys, well, a lot of people kept stuff sealed, and that's what we were saying before. A lot of this stuff just doesn't have a super strong value to them because they're always readily available. Again, that being said, they are wonderful pieces. I'm kind of torn on letting go of my Action Fleet collection, which I still have sealed and packaged. I would like to probably transfer them to a loose complete collection, but we're just not there yet. So I'm gonna hold on to it for right now, but it'll probably be let go in the future, especially when I finally figure out where I stand after all these videos and how much room has been purged. I don't want to show up in the Hoarders TV show. God, can you imagine that Hoarders TV show? I've always imagined being on it because I'm crazy. And you would have an expert with hoarding to help guide you through the process of letting go. And the two would go through, and you have a crew of people helping you go through the stuff. Can you imagine fighting them, like, verbally? Like, maybe like they come up to you and they're like, Alex, you have a problem. You have a hoarding problem with toys, and you need to let this stuff go. Ma'am, I understand that. I'm going to let some of this stuff go. I need to go through it. I need some time. No, you need to go through it right now. We have a crew of people right here that can take it all away and donate it for you. No, these have value. Sir, they have value in your mind. These are just toys. They're meant to be played with. We've already given some of these toys to the kids right here, and the kids come up on the TV show, and like they're playing with their vintage, like G1 Transformers. They had dead stock sealed. Like, how do you convince people the reality that you live in versus the reality that they live in? I mean, again, who really thought these toys would be worth that much money? That'd be an amazing YouTube channel I would love to do, with just weird stuff like that. Anyways, moving on. This is a really cool piece. These came out for a short period in Japan, and this is the dead stock sealed box of these candy toys from Evangelion. This is a throwback to the more original 1970s but early 80s candy toys. So this is a full box of candy toys. They have candy inside plus little figures. So the toys inside were just the various vehicles from Evangelion and a couple suits, all just done in one basic shot color with very few details to them. And they had this wonderful classic look and design to them. And I really thought they were cool. I picked up this whole case There's 12 in here. The suits were the most difficult to get. I think there was like probably 10 other vehicles that, like, oh boy, a truck, missile launching vehicle, just things that weren't as exciting versus the actual suits. So I kept it dead stock. I don't know what the toys are worth now. I like to keep this one while I've already sold off the wafer card box, and that was great because those cards are going up straight in value. But I wish I actually bought them individually boxed, because I never bought one to even open to play with. I just I got one box, a whole case. Yeah, now I'm like, this is really cool. I like to keep this sealed. But that's because I'm crazy. And thankfully the mice have never gotten into this. We actually used to have mice problems years and years ago. So I'd find like a case of candy toys and like little mouse holes drilled in there. And you're like, God damn it. So we'll keep this one protected because we're in a nicer, cleaner house with no such issues. But yeah, I'm curious what the market is. So Editing Alex, go online, figure that stuff out. I would not be surprised it's not a huge value to them, like $100 for a loose set, but a dead stock sealed set might be worth a little bit more now. And to wrap this happy video up, my personal childhood Deep Space Nine battle station. Look at that artwork. Oh my lord. Yeah, Playmates cared about this. There probably was a quality standard agreement with the owners of the Trek license to make sure everything was top notch and not cheap. So yeah, I was a big fan of DS9 as a kid, and look back upon these days pretty favorably. All of the vehicles and playsets lit up, which I thought was just amazing. All the electronic sounds they had. Great times. The Star Trek market is pretty much dead as a damn doornail. There are lots of fans for the series. They collect this stuff pretty actively, but that's the thing. Most of these toys were intended for adults, not so much as the children. And that's why so much of it still survives this day, still carded and packaged. And even though I love this piece, and I will be keeping it, and it's still flopping around somewhere downstairs in this basement, the value of this piece probably is probably about $35. The market actually has gone down compared to as it was even 10 years ago, which is really fascinating. Some of the vehicles like the Voyager used to hit 150 plus dead stock sealed, and I would probably suspect they're like $90 now. And that's just how it is. There's also newer, more highly detailed display ships and figures that have been produced. And when it comes to collectors, they will bend towards the more highly detailed, newer figures than the vintage stuff like this, because there's no childhood personal attachment to most of it. And that's just how it is. But I still love it. And I still would have loved to know where all this Playmates original package artwork went, because it's a gorgeous painting. So thank you very much for watching. We're going to keep rolling. We're going to clean up this basement. We still have that whole shelf and the shelf behind me. It takes so much time to edit these things, which is surprising because I'm doing the most low budget version with just my hands. These strong hands. That being said, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again.